Shifting focus here a little bit, you may have seen that the head office of Martha Stewart's empire is going to be redecorated. The company is being sold to Sequential Brands for about $350 million. Quick look here at today's stock price. We should also take a look at Martha Stewart Living MSO over a longer period of time, even just last week. But for more, let's bring in Kosha Gada. She is the principal at A.T. Kearney, joining us from New York. Kosha, good to be with you today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Catherine. Good to be with you.
Thanks. Let's talk a little bit about this. The MSO brand and Martha Stewart being sold. I mean, it's $350 million today. At its height back in 1999, it was about $2 billion. What's your view in terms of her brand and the sustainability?
Yeah, so Martha Stewart, I think, is a classic case of a company that has a lot of and very strong brand equity. But it was built on a business model in traditional publishing that is now just mired and fundamentally challenged because of the macro environment around publishing on many levels. So they've managed to pivot away from that and address that in two main ways. One is they've outsourced their core publishing operations to Meredith Corporation last fall, since that's kind of the drain on the business and the less profitable and difficult unit for them to operate without scale. And then two, this move, I think, is for them to really capitalize on what they do have, which is the brand equity around Martha Stewart, which is still quite strong, and sell that off to Sequential Brands, which is a company whose core competency today is exactly that, brand management and licensing. And I think their hope is that they're going to try and expand it into more categories in the U.S., as well as look at things that they can do internationally to grow their brand appeal there.
Kosha, what do we know about Sequential? I understand that they did buy linens and things. They've got, I think, one of the brands from Justin Timberlake, one of the brands from Jessica Simpson as well. What is it that they are really good at? What do we think that they might do with something that they bought for $350 million? What are they going to turn it into?
So Sequential Brands is a very interesting company because they have reinvented themselves about 4 years ago from essentially being an apparel designer and retailer, which is also a very difficult business with lots of inventory complexity and lower operating margins, and they completely repivoted into being a brand manager and licensor 4 years ago. And since then, they're kind of on this clear trajectory that they've set out of strategic growth, of primarily growing by acquisition. And the more that they do that, they can take advantage of their scale and continue to go for more and more prominent acquisitions. So they did Jessica Simpson. I think that was a big one just a couple of months ago, 50% stake. And now this in Martha Stewart. They're just really adept at basically running a lean shop where they no longer have to worry about inventory or the regular operations that go with making or retailing these brands. And they're just really good at figuring out the right deals to license and finding arbitrage opportunities to take advantage of name brands that are basically household names, but have left money on the table because of poor operations of the management existing.
Is that your view of Martha Stewart Living, that maybe there was poor operations, money left on the table, but that the brand itself, Martha Stewart, is still incredibly popular? I don't know where it is today. It seems as though she was kind of the first one really into developing lifestyle brands, and there's so many more now. Has that hurt her, or is she still number one?
Yeah, she's one of the preeminent brands in sort of the lifestyle, do-it-yourself, and a high-end level of that within that space. Their issue is that the brand was built on publishing and magazines, which has just now become inherently challenged as a business model. However, what they did really well was moving into licensing and merchandising themselves, and that is about 40% of their revenue right now. The publishing side is 60%, and that 40% is operating with pretty healthy margins, which I think is evidence, to your point, Catherine, that the brand equity is still there. It's just translating better in consumer products, and deals with retail chains as opposed to magazines and kind of physical printed media. Has kind of been their challenge, but the content aspect of it, I think, is still valued by her target segment.
Kosha, who else do you think will be out there that Sequential might look at? I mean, they might not be publicly traded. Maybe they will be. I'm not sure. Actually, there's probably a few out there that could be. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Sequential's announced that they're really interested in expanding in lifestyle, so Martha Stewart was a clear fit for that, as well as in fashion. So anything, akin to Jessica Simpson, which they did, things that sort of round out that portfolio, maybe something on the men's side, maybe something even that translates internationally, because their brands are very much still indexed to the U.S. I think that will probably be their next place, sort of fashion and lifestyle.
All right, Kosha, good to speak with you today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. That's Kosha Gada. She's a principal at A.T. Kearney, joining us from New York.